Most of us have felt that moment. A dream, a business, a calling, a challenge standing in front of us like a mountain. And it's right there in that space between our ability and God's possibility. And that's where the prayer of Jabez comes in. This prayer is only one sentence long. Tucked away quietly in the Old Testament, you could almost miss it. But it carries a boldness that can reshape a life. It says, "Oh, that you would bless me indeed and enlarge my territory, that your hand would be with me and that you would keep me from evil, that I may not cause pain." And then the scripture adds a simple, stunning line. So God granted him what he requested. Now think about that. God granted it. Have you ever asked God for something big enough that only he could make it happen? Because most of the time we don't. We tend to ask for things we feel we can manage. We pray safe prayers, predictable prayers, reasonable prayers. But what if God is waiting for us to ask for something that stretches us, something that requires his hand on our shoulder, something that moves us into a life where we're not just surviving, we're participating in something divine? Bruce Wilkinson, in his book, The Prayer of Jabez, says that the greatest miracles begin with a request that's far beyond our capabilities. He says, when you take little steps, you don't need God. But when you thrust yourself into the mainstream of God's plan, heaven sends angels, resources, strength, and the people you need. Have you ever experienced that? A moment where the help came from somewhere you didn't expect. A person showed up. A door opened. A solution appeared. And you thought, there is no way I did that on my own. Well, I have. And it was during the building of Naturally Slimmed. When I stepped into that venture, I knew immediately this was beyond my natural strength. It wasn't just a business idea, it was a territory I felt God nudging me towards. But I looked at the challenges and thought, really, God? Me? Maybe you've asked that question too. But every day I prayed the prayer of Jabez. Every day I asked God to enlarge my territory, not for my sake, but so his purpose could move through my work. And every day I asked him to put his hand on me because I knew I couldn't do it alone. Something happens when you pray like that. Your perspective shifts. You begin to notice things you have overlooked. You see God's fingerprint on situations you used to call coincidences. Have you ever looked back on a moment and realized God was arranging things long before you ever knew you needed them? That was my experience. Resources showed up at the exact moment they were needed. People with the right skills appeared as if they were sent. Strength came on the days when I felt completely empty. As it was like God was saying, if you trust me with the size of your dreams, I will trust you with the size of my provision. When you pray to have your borders expanded, something beautiful happens. You start living on the edge of miracle territory. You're no longer managing life, you're partnering with God. Wilkinson said that if you have the courage to pray this prayer, you will recognize God's power and his answer when it comes. And he's right, because when God moves, it carries a signature you can't miss. Let me ask you, what territory in your life needs enlarging? Where do you feel that tug to step out, even though you feel unqualified and uncomfortable? What dream have you set aside because it looked too big for your own hands? Imagine if Jabez had prayed a smaller prayer. Imagine if he had said, just bless me a little. Just give me what I can comfortably handle. Would we even know his name today? One of the most powerful truths I have learned is this: God always intervenes when you put his agenda before yours and go for it. Always. You may not see the whole path yet. You don't need to. You only need enough light to take the next step. And when you do, God meets you at the edge of your ability with his supernatural strength. That is why I added a simple phrase to the end of my daily prayer, a reminder of how God works. I would say, where God leads, he provides. What God requires, he empowers me to do. And it's a lot smarter to depend on God than depend on myself. So today, I want to leave you with a question that could change the direction of your life if you let it. What would you ask God for if you knew he would bless it, enlarge it, guide it, and protect it? What bold, impossible thing is waiting for you to say, Lord, use me, enlarge my territory? Because when you ask God for more territory, more influence, more impact, more opportunity to serve his purpose, he begins unfolding a life you could have never designed on your own. And who knows, you may find yourself like Jabez, living in the middle of a dream you were once afraid to pray for.